Hi all, this is Simona Rich, and this is the video about the ninth house of astrology and the meaning of planets located in it. As the third house is concerned with personal expression in terms of communication, the ninth house, its opposite, is concerned with group thoughts and self-expression. Those collective thoughts are especially crystallized in religious and philosophical ideas, the law, as well as higher learning, so this house is in charge of all the major social institutions. Also, this house is about long-distance travel and the knowledge obtained during it. It's also related to foreign cultures and everything that is foreign in terms of things to do with collective communication and thoughts. So it's the house of the collective mind, so to speak. It also shows whether the native is able to access higher levels of inspiration, is wise, and is able to develop social conscience. Here are the meanings of the planets located in this house. Pluto in the ninth house. This placement gives to the native an ability to correct flaws in social thinking and institutions. The native is tuned into the collective unconscious and is able to come up with social structures that suit the society of the age better. If this planet is well aspected, the native could be a powerful spiritual leader. There will be hunger for higher learning and spirituality. The hunger could be great, leading to high competitiveness in these fields as well as spiritual pride. The native might be highly educated and will seek to be known in the area of spirituality, travel, law, or higher education. Unlike most other placements of Pluto, in this placement, the native will be guided by morality in his pursuit of becoming well known or achieving heights in the areas mentioned. If they see that there is unfairness or malfunction in the current social institutions, he might be the cause of their destruction and regeneration. However, the situation is not that good with an afflicted Pluto. In such a case, this placement would produce a religious extremist whose goal in life is to convert others to his way of thinking. Also, with an afflicted Pluto, the person could be an atheist, or his social or religious philosophy might be harmful to the society. But even if this is the case, it's very likely that he will naturally have to go through a life-changing experience which will force him to change his personal philosophies. It's through the areas ruled by this house that the native evolves and regenerates himself. He also has the ability to rekindle interest in social ideas that are ancient or simply no longer popular. He might wholeheartedly subscribe to some ideology which eventually he will understand to be wrong, and this will shatter his life but will also regenerate him. He might be intolerant to people who think differently to him or whose religion and spiritual belief system is different. In such a case, something will happen for him to change this attitude and he will become more tolerant. He is likely to be capable of manipulating the masses. He might be aware of this ability or it could be dormant. It's important not to misuse it. Another possible field of interest or even occupation is in the field of science, social psychology, or teaching doctrines of some school of thought. If this planet is in conjunction with Mars, the native might even use force to convert others to his way of thinking. This placement also promises life-changing experiences during long-distance travels. The native might even move to a distant country to live there for a long time or for the rest of his life. With this placement, it could be that the native couldn't afford to visit foreign countries, and when finally he is able to, he falls in love with the culture he visits and decides to stay there. Also, the person may pursue careers in politics and religion, but usually out of the desire to control the masses, their thoughts, rather than for some humanitarian purpose. He will want to revenge those who think him wrong. If he is interested in law, he will strive to become a judge, and if he strongly believes in the correctness of the legal system, he would make a fair and strict judge who will not make verdicts based on a soft heart. He gets a rush when people are afraid of him, thus all the striving to achieve positions of real influence and greatness. An occupation of a priest, a spiritual leader of any sort, also gives that rush. Neptune in the 9th house. The native is interested in mysticism and Eastern forms of spirituality in particular. A well-aspected Neptune here can make one a seer and can give immense knowledge of spirituality, but an afflicted Neptune can make one into a blind follower of some fake guru, or he can become a religious extremist. He is one of those people who will not care about formal education or wealth or anything material, and his whole life might be dedicated to living out some spiritual idea. The native might make all his life about spirituality, and he will have great faith in the higher power. He will be a truth seeker. If Neptune is positively aspected, the native will experience extraordinary psychic phenomena of a positive nature. He will be in communication with the divine, higher self, and think it to be communication with an external power. He will receive answers to his prayers and will be motivated by the strong connection, and motivated by this strong connection with the divine, may become a spiritual leader. If, however, Neptune is afflicted, he might fall prey to spiritual charlatans. So in such a case, it's best not to trust anyone in the religious field, but to research it independently. It's especially important to beware of foreign spiritual teachers, because they will most likely sense that the native spiritual gates are wide open, and they may abuse him. So the native is advised to steer clear of getting too involved in some foreign religious sect, no matter how genuine it might seem. This placement also may make the native get lost in a foreign country. He will find it difficult to study dry subjects, but might excel in the study of spiritual or artistic subjects. This placement may make legal matters not very clear, and if the native has to deal with the law side because of his occupation, it's best to find someone tried and tested to deal with it. The native might be simply not interested in the legal side of his work and fail to protect some creative work of his properly. His work rights might be stolen, or he might be unable to earn money from it. He is likely to travel to distant foreign countries because he will be attracted to their culture and spiritual beliefs. Neptune often guides people's searches in the wrong direction. With this placement, it's very important to exercise discernment in spiritual matters. The native should guard against wanting to become a spiritual martyr. He should also guard against delusions of spiritual greatness or spiritual mastery. Uranus in the 9th house. These people will have unique views about religion and spirituality, or they might be interested in the occult branches of spirituality. Their views could suddenly change. They are capable of bringing advanced concepts into the field of higher education, and they will not subscribe to traditional modes of thought. They will rebel against established social institutions. They will stand for social freedom, so whenever they encounter social restrictions, they will stand against them. They might also rebel against strict, outdated modes of conduct and religious morality. He will live by his own created morals, with which other people may disagree. They might have been rebellious children and students, arguing with parents and teachers and trying to break free from orthodox ideas and beliefs. They will usually travel without much planning for inspiration, education, or excitement. With an afflicted Uranus, the native's ideas about education won't be practical, and it could also influence people to blindly subscribe to sectarian spiritual views. These people could be extremely intelligent and innovative, yet they are unlikely to finish higher education because they rebel against established ways of learning. They might self-educate themselves, though, so it's unlikely they would feel that they're missing out on higher education. It could be that they start higher education, but then out of boredom or rebellion cut their studies short. It's also likely that the native will start some career, maybe in the field of travel, education, or spirituality, and then decide to take up some other career. He might also become involved in bettering the society through some social reform. His ideas might be idealistic, and the society may not be ready for them, but his ideas might make the society advance, at least in a small way. If the planet is ill aspected by malefics, the native should not get involved in any mass political activity abroad. because it won't end well. Also, make sure you research a foreign country quite well before booking tickets to go there, because Uranus may influence you to be too impulsive and problems will result from that. For example, at the airport it will turn out you don't have the required visa, or you don't have some required medical document, or you're not aware that it's dangerous to visit that particular country because of war or political unrest at that time, for example. An afflicted Uranus may create a rebel without a cause, a person who stirs up masses just for the sake of rebellion, or just because he wants to destroy the existing traditional structure, although there's nothing wrong with that, just the fact that it's traditional. This placement could also produce a person who loves to give moral lectures and teach without putting those teachings to a personal test. The person might become an astrologer or philosopher and might employ the use of internet or technology in his career. His intuition could be highly developed and he might be able sometimes to predict the future. Saturn in the 9th house. This placement makes a person judge social structures in terms of their practicality and contribution to human well-being. The native will be educated in the orthodox way and would seek to establish himself in a good company for a respectable career. He will want to be known through religion, spirituality, some philosophy, travels, or higher education. He will try to attach himself to or get employment in traditional and well-established institutions. Lawyers, professors of reputed universities, and heads of traditional religious institutions can all have Saturn placed in this house. They will want their public name to stand unsmeared, and they will hold conservative views about social affairs. They will travel long distance for business purposes and career advancement rather than for enjoyment. If Saturn is afflicted, the person will be too traditional and strict and will hold narrow views. The native may take great interest in ancient esoteric texts. There could be a tendency to stick to religious structures and ceremonies without understanding their deeper meaning. He might find it difficult to pursue higher education. He may stop his higher studies, and if Saturn is not afflicted, may resume them after the age of 30. The native might have been born into a strict religious family and inherits many of their beliefs. If Saturn is ill aspected, the native will not think of breaking out of dogmas inherited from his family. He will remain conservative for the rest of his life. There might be obstacles and general unhappiness in distant travels. It's especially not recommended to travel to distant countries if Saturn is afflicted by malefics, because those journeys or relocations will bring more misery than happiness. Yet if Saturn has good aspects, the native will gain greatly by traveling to faraway countries, especially in more mature years. Also, Saturn will slowly and gradually bring luck to the 9th house activities, such as higher education, philosophy, law, and religion. So the rewards won't come fast from such pursuits and careers, but when they do, they will be long-lasting. Jupiter in the 9th house. These people will base their entire lives on some religious philosophy and will be very interested in long-distance travel, religion, philosophy, and higher education. They are natural teachers and may be members of, or they may support certain religious and educational institutions. They will have a great thirst for learning if Jupiter is well aspected. If the planet is afflicted, they may want to learn, but will be too lazy to do it, or they may not have much opportunity for this. They will aim for some teaching occupation in religious institutions and will tolerate other religious views. However, if the planet is afflicted, this can make the natives into narrow-minded religious extremists. They will travel to faraway countries to understand and learn from different cultures. They might be in an occupation to do with travel, teaching, religion, or philosophy. The native will benefit from foreign people in some way. He will take long-distance travels to broaden his mind. He is likely to become a teacher, or his occupation will be connected with sharing his knowledge with others. Jupiter will protect the native during his travels and dealings with foreign people unless it's ill aspected. He will learn by focusing on main trends rather than looking at the details. He will prefer studying on his own things that interest him, such as spirituality, travel, and philosophy. He will remain a lifelong student. He is likely to become successful quite early in life. He will also benefit from travel, law, and spiritual institutions. He will benefit from researching foreign cultures. There's a natural desire to teach others what the native learns, and he's capable of influencing the masses either with his spoken or written word. He might even become famous if his Jupiter conjuncts midheaven. He's likely to be sexually attracted to foreign people and may marry a foreigner. If this planet is ill aspected, the native may sacrifice a lot to obtain higher knowledge, and sometimes he will regret that later in life. Mars in the 9th house. The native will be interested in outdoor sports, travel, higher education, religion, and spirituality. He can be the pioneer of a new social thought because he can passionately and aggressively promote what he stands for. He will have high morality, and other people will be inspired by the way he leads his life. Adventure is very important in his life, and he will travel and research spirituality with that spirit. Sometimes he will try to convert others to his way of thinking too aggressively, and this will make people turn away from him, and they might even become his enemies. This usually happens when Mars is afflicted, and this would also cause the native not to want to understand and to be against people who think differently to how he does. With this placement, the person can become a writer, and he will have massive amounts of energy to use for research into higher education, spirituality, and travel. Also, with this placement, the native will usually be convinced that his opinions are correct, although this might not be the case in reality. An afflicted Mars may cause the native to experience injuries while traveling, so one should be careful whilst visiting faraway destinations. Also, an afflicted Mars may cause the native to have disagreements with foreign people. There is a possibility of being attacked or even in a place of war with an afflicted Mars. This placement may also make the native have an excellent sense of humor. He will be positive in life and will have passion for living. He will be very enthusiastic and sometimes too impulsive. He might be into extreme and dangerous sports. With such a placement, it could be that the native will want to relocate to another country, and once this happens, he will find spiritual fulfillment there. This placement produces natives who put their philosophies into practice. Sometimes this placement makes people attracted to foreign persons. Sun in the 9th house. This placement gives high intuition and an active interest in long-distance travel, philosophy, spirituality, and higher education. The native will be interested in foreign cultures. He regulates his life according to his own morality that might be quite narrow-minded. There will be a desire to become well-known in some 9th house areas such as travel, philosophy, spirituality, religion, or higher education. If the sun is ill aspected, the native may attempt to impose his philosophical and religious views on others. He would also find it difficult to obtain higher education and would have disagreements with foreign people. With a well-aspected sun, the native will seek higher knowledge in an active manner all his life. He will love long-distance travel and will try to spend as much time abroad as possible. When there, he will delve deeply into the foreign culture. It could be that his father is of a different nationality, or the native as a child was brought up in a foreign country. He might adopt a different set of religious views than what he grew up with. He's driven to delve deeply into spirituality, philosophy, and higher education because his self-esteem depends on it. He may strive for authoritative positions in those fields or the field of law. He will be able to see the bigger picture in whatever he gets really interested in, and he will be able to see the interconnection of different pieces of information. He will remain a lifelong student of the subjects that interest him, such as travel and spirituality. He might be interested in many subjects and will try to learn the basics of them all. Sometimes he will spend all his time in the pursuit of knowledge and not enough time to keep the body strong and healthy, so the balance is required here. He would be good in professions where he is seen in the public. People are inspired by him, so he has the power to motivate as well as to educate them. Venus in the 9th house. This placement makes the natives lovers of art, literature, travel, spirituality, and philosophy. The native will love taking journeys to distant countries. He might meet the person he falls in love with during one of his travels, or in the fields of publishing, spirituality, or higher education. The native might be strongly attracted to foreign people and to those holding other beliefs, especially spiritual ones. He may be idealistic in love and might take time to select the right person. He will be well educated and may try to convert others to his own way of thinking. The native will be fascinated by foreign cultures, diving deeply into some aspects of them. Foreign people will find the native attractive. He will be better known and will have more friends abroad than in his own country, and as well as more admirers. The native will have good in-laws. With such a placement, the native may become a writer or publisher. He will love his occupation, and this placement will gift the native with the ability to write well about a wide range of subjects. Sometimes the native will be distracted from his studies and research by the available pleasurable activities or even pleasing environments. If Venus is afflicted, the native may even cut his studies short, and usually this will happen by his own choice rather than some obstacle. They will love observing religious ceremonies of foreign cultures and other cultural events. Finally, they will fall in love with one country which they will keep visiting. They might even move to live there, and they will feel at home there rather than in their own country, and this possibility increases if this planet is located in an immovable sign. Sometimes if Venus is afflicted, it can create escapism tendencies, especially at a young age. The native may perceive his childhood environments cruel and restrictive, and will finally feel free and happy when he escapes that environment in later years. Exciting adventures are promised in faraway countries. You're likely to be a teacher, and educating people comes naturally to you. You're a lifelong student. A well-aspected Venus gives a natural ability to get along with everyone and knowing when and what to say in different situations. Mercury in the 9th house. The person will be highly educated with an interest in the 9th house activities of travel, spirituality, and education. He might be some sort of a teacher or professor. He will try to understand on what ideas the society is based and will research deeply into the mass social ideas, mass social thought. They will be guided by morals and will take actions that are practical and ethical. They might travel to distant countries to research their cultures and might make travel or teaching about some aspect of it as their profession. His mind is quick and can quickly understand abstract concepts. He will enjoy having conversations with intelligent people about social trends, travels, and education. He will believe that this reality could be fully understood, and all his life will research things to do with how this universe works. He will see the big picture, but might not be that interested in details. He might be good in learning foreign languages. He may become a writer, writing about spirituality, foreign cultures, or his travels. He will write out of love for delving deeply into things that interest him. He will try to escape the everyday life, the shallow existence, and things that are common and perceived by him as boring. So writing could be used as a means to escape the ordinary. He will be highly interested in life and research many aspects of it. He might consume too much information, not giving the mind the required time to rest. So this may lead to stress or even mental imbalances. It's important to sometimes stop consuming information and allow the mind to process all it has absorbed. And this is, I haven't checked the natal chart of Deepika Padukone, but this actress is very mercurial, and she spent so much time in her work that she later started suffering from serious depression. So this is the thing that happens with mercurial people. With people whose Mercury is strong, their minds are so active, but it's so important to give the mind rest if that's the case, because if it becomes too overactive, it can really affect you badly psychologically. This placement also may make the native jump from one subject to the next. Multitasking could be his way of life. He might have knowledge about many subjects, but totally mastering them might lead to boredom. So he might jump to another subject as soon as research into one subject becomes monotonous. Sometimes the native will be aware of the sharpness of his mind from a very young age, and will rebel against teachers and parents, thinking himself to be smarter than them. If his convictions that he's smarter prove wrong, he will be motivated to learn even more deeply so that he gets more intelligent and proves others wrong the next time. The native might be in the law occupation. He might be highly dogmatic if Mercury is afflicted by a malefics. He might seek positions of power out of selfish reasons. Sometimes they will travel to distant countries for spiritual purposes, such as to learn from some spiritual teacher that they like. He might even live in a foreign country for some time. He might be highly intuitive with an ability to see into the future. If Mercury is afflicted, the person will be proud of his learning and will make others dislike him due to his boasting and the habit of trying to impose his views on others. And finally, Moon in the 9th house. This placement makes the native attached to the worldview he was raised with. The native will live his life based on spiritual and moral concepts. The native might be close-minded, as he will fail to open up to the concepts that are very different to the dogmas instilled by his parents. The parents might be involved in the life of the native and might not allow him to expand his horizons. If the moon is afflicted, the native will be very close-minded and dogmatic. Also, his philosophies of life will not be fully thought out, but he will be guided by them because of how he feels about them. The native has good intuition and might even be psychic and may be able to foresee events. It's likely that he will travel a lot and may even relocate to a distant country. Foreign travel will make him develop his personality, and this will be good for his mind. Sometimes this placement promotes escapism. If the reality is not satisfying, the native will delve into the world of dreams and the occult. The native's mother might be a foreigner or of a different religion than the father. The native spouse might be foreign too. As the moon is considered a passive luminary, the native will probably prefer listening to speaking. So he will be an excellent listener, deeply absorbing what he hears. That's actually his best way of consuming and assimilating new information. His mother might be highly educated, and it might be that the native felt that her body was at home, yet the mind was somewhere else. She might not have paid a lot of attention to him as a child, because she was focused on career or things that interested her, such as travel, writing, or spirituality. The native might be interested in many things, so it could be that he keeps changing his hobbies. So he might become a person who knows about many things, but whose knowledge is never put to practical use. He will do all it takes to avoid boredom. If he cannot afford to travel, he will travel in his mind. He has an amazing imaginative ability. So that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Take care.